So let's say we wanted to start a fund. You know, how do we do that? I mean, you just told the story of a young lady who wanted to start a fund.
Yeah.
You know, how do we do that?
Yeah. Well, when we talk about funds, let's talk about it from two standpoints. There's you as an angel investor. That's where you're investing your own money, or it could be your sweat equity, like we talked about, where that converts into equity of those companies, and you can look at that as what you call a track record. In our industry, track record is important. What track record is to show me, again, that TI, show me that you say you want to be an investor, you can make great investments, show me that, show me state, right? And I think, as an angel investor, that's one pathway. On the venture fund side, there's only two pathways. You can either join a venture fund and can show your value. And the way I said it is that, and again, somebody asked me, like, do I have to have an MBA? I was Frank Martin from USC reached out to me. And I'm like, no, what you do have to show is that you have value. You have value. Just like a woman, right? Like a woman coming to you, like I tell brothers all the time, the looks ain't value. That's the icing. The value is how she acts, how she treats you, what she's gonna do for you, all that good stuff. And the same thing with the fund is what value you're gonna provide to founders, right? Kind of founder come to you and they feel like comfortable enough to talk to you about their business and comfortable enough to take your advice. And then the third piece of that, which is a little bit harder, starting your own fund that Arlen did. With starting your own fund, there are several schools out there, like one called Venture University, and then another one called by Brad Fell, Venture Deals. So it's actually a book. And shout out, anybody interested in the book, Venture Deals is a really great book. I actually bought one for Frank for him to study.
Nice.
But that's the pathway for you to learn how to be a VC yourself in your own fund. And then, of course, there are organizations like Kauffman Foundation or Kauffman Fellowship. It's about $80,000 that trains you how to be a VC. We have a program that's for existing VCs. So if you're already in the space, but you want to kind of level up your game, like a master's degree, we have that as well.
Cool. Let's go deeper, because my man Jay, he wanted to. He had some thoughts about this whole thing around ownership.
Yeah.
And as we were having our conversations, just in preparation, he had some really deep thoughts about that he want to ask. So
yeah.
Get that, Jay.
Spill it.
Well, before we go there, we were talking earlier, and you were talking about the importance of ownership.
Yeah.
First of all, why?
Yeah. For me, there's this thing called the racial wealth gap that's been existing for decades. The racial wealth gap means that for every dollar that a black person makes, the white folks is making, a certain number above that, right? And then the same thing, the Latinos is behind the white folks, and so forth and so on. Is that, and I think a lot of times I hear often about, black dollars, let's recycle, how do the black dollars stay in the black community? I feel that, but for me, it's like I want my black dollars to get other black dollars and then come back to me. Meaning that when I was in a clothing company, we decided not to particularly sell to us, but we sold to the Asian community in China, because I'm gonna charge them and then bring that money back to us. I think you can have both. You can have it where you can support black businesses, that's true, but you can also where you can, what I call repatriate the money back to your community. And I think that's one pathway. But I think for me, ownership is a pathway to reducing that racial wealth gap. In the past, and I put my economist hat on, housing used to be the path of the home ownership, either by buying your own house or in real estate property, which still is. But the credit crisis just decimated that tremendously, right? And so you have to have a diversified focus on that. And that can either be owning real estate, it could be owning businesses, that could be many different things. Like, I'll give you an example. My wife's family, they're franchise owners of McDonald's in Northern California, owned by 18 McDonald's. And so shout out to folks that's in the franchising base. But the whole idea for me is owning a pathway to revenue can come into your family or community.
One of the keys, I think, for me, and we can disagree or expound. The key ownership, number one, is ownership of your own mind and your own thoughts.
Oh, most definitely. That's you have to have that before you do anything else.
Because this conversation that we're having, you're having a conversation as a free man.
Yeah.
And most of us aren't free.
Yeah.
So your level that you're talking about starts with freeing up your mind.
Man, what did Jay say? He said, and I got the keys. Until you're on your own, you can't be me. Until you're on your own, you can't be free. Absolutely.
Man said he was a poet, dog.
Absolutely.
Real talk.
But that goes back to what I very first talked about, authenticity. Authenticity says you bring your whole full self into whatever you do. When you can't, you're not free. You're stifled. And I'll give you a perfect example. My name is Taj. It's Arabic. It means crown. My father gave me that name. My father's Muslim. When I was growing up and I got into business, I felt like Taj was too ethnic, right? It wasn't corporate, right? So I went by Todd. And I'm thinking like I'm rising through the ranks because I changed my name. But what was happening was I wasn't free. And I was being owned. I was being passed through the ranks. I wasn't rising. I was being passed through as property because they owned my being, because they owned my name. And what changed me is when I got to California, and the first time I met a Hasidic Jew, I'm from Texas, grew up Muslims. I never seen a Hasidic Jew in my life, right? And so he's there. He had the hat, the curls, like all the whole nine, right? In Beverly Hills, in UBS Investment Bank. And he's like, why aren't you yourself? Because he knew my background, and I was like, man, like this dude has asked me this. And he's like, even like your beard, your hair, your name, like that is you. That's what's going to make people want to do business with you, is you. Not who this caricature of what you are.
That's right.
And so to your point, yeah, like definitely being yourself is the first and foremost pathway to that.
Bro, I got chills when you said that. Like seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking about the people that no matter what, they're gonna find a problem for every solution. They're gonna pick a fight no matter what. Okay? You ever had good morning? What's so good about it? Right? Those are the people that will complain about paying the taxes after winning $1 million. So this is what I call the versus battle niggas. Okay? Everything is a damn struggle and a fight, right? It's peanut butter versus jelly. Okay? And Jelly got to get his homegirls together to talk shit about peanut butter. Peanut butter never was good. You know, these versus niggas. Everything is a fight, okay? Peanut butter and jelly alone, they're okay. But when they work together, it's magic. You versus niggas is on some sucker shit.
So what role? I got like a couple more questions, and we can bust this up. So what role has music played in your life?
Oh man, if anybody follows me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, like I be throwing out lyrics. I kind of get in trouble for it sometimes because I'm a Pimp C fan, so it's UGK all the way.
R.I.P.
So I always say, I'm a mixture of Chad Butler.
These Texas dudes, man.
Absolutely, it's on with it. I'm a mix of Chad Butler, Etheridge Knight if you're into poetry, and Adam Smith on the economic side. But I think music plays a really good pathway into this. When anybody would tell you when they book time with me, I ask them a question. I say, "What's your favorite artist?" Right? Because for me, it tells me a lot. And I'll be honest, I've met people like, I don't listen to music, and I'm like, we ain't gonna work together. Because for me, creativity spurs innovation, and innovation spurs creativity. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in this whole thing about right brain, left brain, one. Everybody has something that's gonna fulfill them, that's gonna give them joy, right? And what I'm looking for when I ask you that question is, what gives you joy? I don't care if it's the Dixie Chicks or Earth, Wind, and Fire. I want to know outside of the work what gives you joy, because that's what the passion going to drive you to really look for.
Who is the person that doesn't like music?
Oh, it's some folks.
No, but I'm saying that not one specific genre, but everybody likes classical. Beethoven, man.
Two people. I know two people. That's why they don't work with me. I asked two people. I was like, like, what's your favorite artist? I don't listen to music, and I'm like. None? I was like, not even like ambient sounds, like, the ocean or something? They're like, nah. I'm like, all right, well, shit, we ain't gonna work together.
Yeah, kick rocks.
Yeah.
Did your daddy get hit with a guitar when you was little? No. Scar for life? Remember the honky tonk man?
may had Tina Turner as an in-law.
And that's funny because he said his theme music he gonna ride up to be artist storytelling. My artist is Outkast, ATLians all day.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So when you wrote that, I was like, my man's in them.
Yeah, because there's nothing come out of Alabama.
Man.
Oh, wait a minute, David Banner?
Come on,
no, it's
man.
Mississippi.
That's Mississippi. That's Mississippi.
Rich boy
from Mobile,
Put
man.
D's on it.
Well, no, that's where you had to go.
It's still Alabama.
Rich boy is.
I rest my case.
Anyway.
Hey, Rich boy made a classic. Don't sleep on Rich boy.
He was rocking.
Only
those
thing came
D's
out
on
of Alabama was syrup and the Freedom Riders.
Well, shit, we need that. We can have a whole discussion about the folks. If you don't have syrup on your pancakes, we don't have an issue.
And see, folks don't know about that alligator syrup, boy.
I know.
See?
I know.
See?
I'm learning something every day.
See, so we're in this spot, man, right now, and actually, man, it's a brother that manages this shared space right here.
Yeah.
Shout out to Brandon, man, and so you and I talked a few weeks ago about a new shared space that's coming up.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Shared space and shared office is, I think, going to be important as the future goes on. Like I think what COVID has done is a few different things. COVID has made us think creatively about how we create, how we innovate, and it made us think differently about workforce and workplaces. So I think that the space is going to be really interesting. The space where we work. We have a fraternity brother by the name of Jim Castleberry, who's like a legend in this space. He used to manage the MacArthur Foundation, which is $1 billion fund, and now he's at another billionaire fund. That's what's called a family office, which is a family office is if you're a very rich mug, you got these people managing your money, and so to my guys in the NBA, you need a family office. Let's just talk about that. And so he purchased the spot across from the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza. There's a couple of different spots in Stocker. And ironically, that's where my fund is going to be located. We'll be the first, if I'm not mistaken, the first and largest venture fund in Baldwin Hills, directly in Baldwin Hills.
Sweet.
So I joke and I kid, like there's a fund called Mac Venture Capital that's owned by one of our other fraternity brothers, Charles King, who's right now, shout out to Charles King. I'm hoping that Judas and Messiah wins at the Oscars tonight. But they're located in West Hollywood. There's another fund located in Century City. But I tell people, I'm in the hood. I'm in Baldwin Hills. Pull up.
I love it. And what's some of the stuff you kind of piqued my interest? You said they had like a podcast studio, film studio, all that good stuff.
So that company, it's just a family office. They own an entertainment company called Wayfair Entertainment, right? And so I know they're going to make sure that space has facilities for podcasting, for video casting, and everything else. As a matter of fact, myself and a guy who's the social media manager for will.i.am, we're starting a podcast, to your point, connection, technology, and music. And the whole idea is we're bringing in people in music and music and entertainment and people in tech. We talk about the similarities in what they do. The same thing that I mentioned about how artists and founders, venture funds and labels, accelerators and radio stations or DSPs are similar. That whole idea is coming to this podcast. So we're going to kind of delve deep into that and have people on the show like will.i.am, Sir, D-Smoke, and IDK and others alongside with founders that I know and talk about their journeys.
Dope. Hey, will you have editing space in the spot?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's 3 buildings. One building, seven. No, first of all, Wayfair Studios is a really great studio. Okay. If you haven't checked them out, definitely check them out. But I think the good thing about the neighborhood is that we don't have to go outside of the neighborhood to get content. We're already creating the content. Now we don't have to go outside our community for the content to be packaged and distributed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. I mean, hey man, we just want to make sure that because Young Dio behind the boards, our producer, make sure he has an editing space.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, to learn and grow his skills. So, when you said third quarter, you guys moving over there?
Yeah, I think third, beginning of fourth quarter this year. Yeah.
Hey, we were already thinking. I already talked to Emily about it. It's like, listen, the offices for Miles Ahead of Cancer. You know, let's make sure we have something there and to support. So thank you for bringing that to us.
Yeah, and not only that, the community. I hope the community supports it, because I think, you know, a lot of times too, when I first came to California, I came to California in '99, and I remember going up to Fox Hills Mall, and I remember like all the businesses that were there.
Nine at the Fox Hills Mall.
You know, it was
cracking.
Was that Oak Tree?
Yeah, oh, absolutely, absolutely. And when I look at things now, like this is what 20 plus years later, and when I look at Leimert Park, and I look at the African Drumming Circle is no longer there. When I look at a lot of the black-owned businesses are kind of being pushed out. Or when I see even on the street that my wife grew up, we have a residence right across from Target on La Cienega. It's changing. Right. So I think a lot of us who are of 40, 30, 20, we need to come back in and own, right? But to your point, the ownership begins with our mind, and then everything else can follow behind it. What did In Vogue say? Free your mind, the rest will follow?
Your ass will follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, man, we love it. Hey, where can people get in contact with you? How can they, get with you?
Appreciate it, man. So number one, if you're listening and you reach out to me on Twitter at Econo Ahmad, ECONOAHMAD, LinkedIn, my full name is Taj Eldridge. Make sure you put Skinny Black Lounge. I don't accept everybody, so you're gonna have to put SBL in there or something, And if you're a noob, I mean, I need to see Cap Facade somewhere on your profile, because we ain't going that way. I'm on Instagram, but I don't really get down on Instagram. I'm a lover of words versus images, so Twitter's my thing. But I think, again, to the point, when you do connect with me, I'm connected with other folks that are out there, because there's other folks who are just like me, who are trying to make sure that we spread this information out there. And lastly, I'm gonna give this, there's an organization, great organization called HBCU.VC that's training the next generation of people in venture that look like me, coming from HBCUs. So that's a really great organization to support as well.
Any last questions, Jay?
Nah, man, I just want to give you your flowers, brother. I appreciate you coming, man.
Yes, sir.
Especially all the challenges. We're going to be praying for you.
Yeah.
He got your back. That means we got your back.
Oh, yeah.
You got an army with you, man.
Appreciate it. And to that point, let me, I always talk about this. I'm an advocate for the National Kidney Foundation. For your listeners, what he's talking about is that about 2 years ago, I got diagnosed with this rare genetic disease called FSGS, which impacts a lot of people of color, black folks specifically, and it impacts your kidneys. It creates kidney failure immediately. And for me, what was interesting was that, and again, this is the reason why ownership is important. This is the reason why representation is important. About 10 years ago, I went to a nephrologist to get checked out, and it was a Caucasian nephrologist, and he's like, you're just tired. You're working hard. You're a black man. It goes with the territory. Don't worry about it. So I did that. I did not worry about it. I'm paying for this guy to look at my health, and I trusted him. 10 years later, this disease kept manifesting itself. And the interesting thing about this disease, you don't feel it. It's not a disease where you feel yourself feeling. You're like, you're going to go to the doctor. You just get tired. And the way that you urinate changes, but it's not significant enough for you to, like, you're not peeing blood, so you're not like I'm dead, but it's just changing. And I was at a party with this young lady who's Indian American, and I was telling her about the situation, and the look on her face was horror, right? Because she's like, I was telling her, I couldn't get insurance and all this other stuff. She's like, you need a biopsy right now. And I'm like, what the fuck is a biopsy, right? And so when I went to get it done, I later found out I was stage 5. Had I not met her, I wouldn't be here today even having this conversation, because I would have been dead. Because that's a disease that has killed so many, from Fife Dog to many others, right? And what I also learned in my research from the disease is environmentally caused, both by the climate, which is there are carcinogens in the air, and also in our environment. And so what I later found out was 3 of my cousins, who we all grew up around the same area in Dallas, all 3 of us have the same disease. Wow. Right? One passed away, one is younger than me. We're all under the age of 50. So a lot of these things, the reason why I want to get more of us into clean tech is because of that. There's to drive an electric vehicle is not just to save the whales and shit in the future. It's to save Tyrone, Taj, and Rob right now.
Right on.
Because clean tech is a public health issue. It's an economic issue and a social justice issue. So I think that from that standpoint, number one, let's get educated about it. Let's really take our health into our idea, and let's talk about it. Because I think a lot of times too, people don't talk about their ailments and their illnesses. And remember, when I talk about turning your ills into learnings, I mean that for my health too, right? Because it's like somebody might be right now having the same issues that I had, being tired, having a urine have bubbles in it, and don't think nothing wrong. If you're having that, go check to a nephrologist right now, right? So I think that's one of the things we have to do. We have to always be open and honest about what's happening with us, because we don't know who's hearing that and how that's going to be impacted by them.
Yeah, and it's wild, man. So, you know, something that most people don't know. These guys know. Like when I was like going through the whole process at Loma Linda, like I don't think they met you yet. Like this is the dude that, you know, went through that process to make sure you here, brother.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing, we talk about health. When I was Big Rob, you know what I'm saying? Even though I'm plant-based, you know, healthier, you know, 100 pounds lighter than I used to be, those effects still was affecting my heart, and I didn't even know it, right? Even though I'm healthy now, one of the guys in going through the process was like, man, you the healthiest dude we've ever seen come through here, but we can't do the process with you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that was one of the worst calls I ever had to make to you, brother. Like, yo, man, I'm disqualified.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that hurt.
Yeah, but I think for me, what I realized is that, you know, when and it was funny. I've said this to my own children, and I heard Nip Mama say this to them. Is like when I got diagnosed and I realized that my mortality was coming. One of the things I said to my kids, and I said that death is nothing to be afraid of. It's something to prepare for.
Yeah.
So let's get prepared. Let's get prepared for if I'm not here, you know what pathway to do. If I'm not here, this is the way we're going to do it. But the reality of it is, all of us are going to fucking die.
Not an if, it's a when.
So that's the mentality we need to have. And I think for me, like I feel like this disease has been a blessing because it enabled me to have this conversation and talk to people about it. It's enabled people like Rob and others to realize that, like I need something may not be right because I'm going through this process and now I got to check on my own health. And not only that, like I'm up 3 days a week, 3 o'clock in the morning to do dialysis. But instead of being pissed off about it, what I'm doing is that's how I raised my $250 million. I'm making calls to Europe. I'm making calls to the Middle East. While everybody's asleep, even on the East Coast, I'm up and I'm done. And so I set out to say that any adversity you're going through, whether you're living in the hood, whether you're doing this, whether you have disease or ailments, there is a bit of positivity in that if you just allow it to happen, right? Everything has purpose, you know. So that's one of the last things I want to say on that, man.
Hey man, again, authentic black male conversation where the barbershop meets the library, meets personal development. Dr. Taj Eldridge, thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
And he clean.
God, clean.
Man, looking like $1 million after
gotta
taxes.
do it.
Money, boy.
You gotta do it.
hey, looking like a stack of stimulus checks.
That was all right there.
Cool.
Hey man, that was fun.